The power of a grand single-player game with immense choice and consequence and quality. Feels like experiences like this are an ancient relic at a time in which live services are dying by the dozens each month. And yet, it feels like we have a conveyor belt full of slop on the way with a few gems here and there from the AAA games industry. Last news video, I attempted at least to dunk on EA being greedy with early access and their special editions, a practice that is becoming far more common in the industry. FOMO tactics. Being able to charge an extra $20-30 with the main incentive that you get to play 3 or 7 days early is simply create a problem, sell the solution. EA Sports College Football 25 shows how effective that can be, with 2.2 million people spending $100 for one of the most highly anticipated sports games in years. Not great. The FTC is going after Microsoft for their recent Game Pass price increase, and Microsoft is fighting it back against their criticism by arguing that they are giving players more value because it also unlocks online multiplayer functionality now. Yeah, apparently they're touting that as the reasoning for the $3 a month increase to Game Pass Ultimate, a feature that should be free these days. Master Cheeks No More, the Halo television show that went out of its way to ignore the gaming side of the franchise, has been cancelled by Paramount, with the team behind the show trying to shop it to other networks. It remains to be seen if that'll work, but at this point, I feel like you have to or should start over and actually lean into the real identity of Halo and Master Chief, kind of like what, The Last of Us, Fallout have done to great success. This is a translation that can work if done right, but unfortunately, bizarre human Covenant girl, Commander Shepard, and Quan is what we got. The Metro franchise continues to expand with a new standalone prequel experience, Metro Awakening, story-driven first-person adventure launching this year. They recently released new images and details, and you would think people would be excited and talking about this, but no, that is not the case because it's a VR-only game. Just goes to show how this market still has yet to take off. Even big-name franchises like this can't establish any interest. The Witcher 4 is the most advanced out of all current CD Projekt Red games, says Associate Game Director Pavel Sasko. He then added all other projects like Cyberpunk 2 are in their early stages. I personally still think there's a chance that we see a teaser trailer for this upcoming game sometime this year. They've already posted a teaser image a while back, and there have been some indication a trailer may have been worked on recently. Either way, The Witcher 4, whatever it's going to be called, probably is set to release before even, say, The Elder Scrolls 6, so I'd assume maybe around 2026. Now, 2024 has been a light year in terms of major releases, and Stalker 2 has been one of my most anticipated games for a while, and unfortunately the wait will be a little longer, being delayed yet again from September to November, as the team needs more time to iron out bugs, which I personally am fine with, as long as it really is just that. Truly hope GSC Game World delivers with this game, whenever that is. For now, I'll hope that is November. IGN's parent company has laid off all staff of indie publisher Humble Games, known for publishing games like Coral Island, Forager, and Signalis, and has deals with several upcoming games including survival game Lost Skies and co-op heisting game Monaco 2. The company put out a statement which some believe was drafted by AI tools, which they've denied, saying that they were restructuring, and employees confirmed what that meant was that, everyone was fired. The company is being handed off to a third-party consultancy company, said a former employee, and this is yet another story and addition to the thousands of jobs that have been lost in the industry just this year alone. Helldivers 2 was the talk of the games industry at the start of the year, Sony's first real success story in the live service arena. So successful that the devs couldn't even keep up with the interest, their servers being crushed for weeks. Since then, though, this multiplayer live service has been tumbling. And when I say tumbling, they've been losing players at an alarming historic rate. And the main blame for that can be on the fact that there hasn't been any real substantial post-launch additions to draw players back in or keep them. Many defeated the bugs and mechs and, moved on. This game has gone from around 500,000 players in February to recently dropping to under 10,000. That's crazy. Now though, Arrowhead is finally preparing its biggest update yet, releasing in early August that will introduce difficulty level 10, new enemies, objectives, and environmental hazards. It remains to be seen if this will be enough to bring players back. BioWare's Anthem is an example of a live service that was a mistake, a misguided attempt to cash in on the lucrative games as a service trend, and it backfired big time for BioWare. EA eventually pulled the plug, and now Warframe boss Steve Sinclair has said that game companies must have more faith in live service projects, even if they struggle at launch. He says to VGC they think the release is make or break, and it's not. They have a financial way to be persistent, and they never do it. It comes out, it doesn't work, and they throw it away. Isn't that a shame when you put so many years of your life into iterating on those systems or building technology or building the start of a community, and because the operating costs are high, you get terrified when you see the numbers drop and you leave. We've seen this with amazing releases that I think have massive potential, and they just eject too soon. I understand this line of thinking, but also realize first impressions matter. Live service games like Crossfire X, Knockout City, Redfall, Babylon's Fall, Anthem, and so many more, I have sincere doubts that those teams would be able to turn things around. People have to care, and many did not, especially with many of these service games being disasters at launch. Fallout 76 is maybe one of the few examples of a live service stinking for years and then eventually finding its groove, but that also is part of one of gaming's biggest franchises. There was a decent foundation already there and an established player base, something a lot of live service games don't have. Apex Legends recently screwed over its player base with a greedy new monetization system, of which would introduce 2 battle passes per season and remove the ability to use Apex coins to purchase the battle pass. It was going to be cash only, meaning EA and Respawn would no longer allow players the ability to earn them in-game to buy the battle pass. In its announcement post, EA and Respawn explained the changes would be more approachable and realistic for our global player community, and that the updated aspects make the battle pass more attainable and valuable for your time and money. Yeah, well, the community disagreed loudly. The actual announcement post was community noted on Twitter, reflecting that EA was just being greedy, and the game began getting review bombed on Steam. 72,632 overwhelmingly negative reviews later, EA reversed course. In a news statement, they said, "You've spoken and we've listened," and followed that up by saying, "We will restore the ability to get the premium battle pass for Apex coins," and yes, this is another clear example of player protest being effective. Though 2 battle passes per season is still ridiculous and greedy in my opinion. Also, nice new addition to my piece of art, my Mona Lisa, masterpiece of AAA apology statements. And speaking of this, it leads us to our next apology statement or story. Ubisoft has come out with a statement in regards to the concerns surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows. While social media and gaming websites are concentrating on half of the story, there's a bigger issue surrounding this mess, and it's not just Yasuke. Historically inaccurate architecture, admitting to stealing a reenactment group's flag, and even lawmakers speaking out against the game is why Ubisoft published this new statement, of which a TLDR is that Ubisoft reminds everyone that these AC games feature historical figures and events and is only inspired by them. They apologize to the Japanese community about some of the issues with the game's promotional material. I think they're referring to the reenactment flag situation with this remark maybe. They also acknowledge that Yasuke was a samurai is debated and not a proven fact, which is a departure from previous remarks that they made about the character's appearance in the game. The reaction to this statement was not great, as some felt that Ubisoft was giving into quote-unquote hatred, while others felt that this was a quote-unquote sorry not sorry statement. Myself, I don't know what else Ubisoft could have said here. If anything, they should have said some of this from the get-go. Like, they won't ever admit it, but the protagonist choices were likely because of Ghost of Tsushima and the want for a modern worldwide appeal, thus Yasuke and Neo. I just don't think that the French developer expected this much backlash, especially from the Japanese community, which led to a massive petition, the YouTube trailer being mass disliked, and even catching the eye of legislators in the country. Arguably one of the most controversial games in recent history continues to be just that. The use of AI in gaming is a rather interesting discussion because there's part of me that feels like it can enhance and hopefully make development cycles a little bit shorter, but there's also the fact that developers, companies are going to be using it in the greedy, most soulless ways possible. And that's what's pretty much been clear as of late, especially with Ubisoft saying that they're going to have NPC AI. That's going to be something used as their new ghostwriting tool. And now we have this coming from Dexerto, in which Activision has been sneakily using AI-created skins to Call of Duty players. Wired has published an investigation into how the biggest game developers like Activision Blizzard and Riot are integrating the use of generative AI into their game development pipelines. According to the report, Activision started the process of using AI in their games in early 2023, and by July of that year they had secured access to GPT 3.5 and approved the use of certain generative AI tools in creating concept art and marketing materials. By late 2023, Activision had reportedly sold an AI-generated cosmetic through Modern Warfare 3's in-game store, which right now it's pissing a lot of people off because it's being sold for the same premium price, and I think there's an argument to be made that content like this should be, cheaper, especially because of the, less effort even being put into this. And this is the specific skin that was used or made by AI, or at least parts of it, the Yokai Wrath bundle. And this Wired report goes a little bit more in depth, but they also bring up the fact that Activision made AI-generated cosmetic available for purchase, the one I just went over, and then shortly thereafter, Microsoft laid off about 2,000 employees at Activision, Blizzard, and Xbox. Among the teams hit hard were 2D artists, which it does make you think, doesn't it? What a effed up day, one-time environment artist at Blizzard said on X. Half the environment art team cut from Overwatch 2, folks I helped hire and train. At Activision, it was the same story. And it continues later on, outlining that Blizzard Entertainment is full on in with this AI stuff. It mentions that Blizzard is building its own AI system too, which at one time was named Blizzard Diffusion. Though details are scarce, beyond a patent the company filed for a machine learning-based 2D structured image generation system, Blizzard's internal AI that they trained is still super secretive. Only those who have access to it work with it, and no one else knows how it works. And as it stands right now, Blizzard with generative AI is not a thing, except for this secret system, which will be probably the norm in the coming years. And I do fear for the video game industry. We've already had like 20,000 jobs lost in the last year or two, and there's going to be a lot more jobs gone once, artists just aren't going to be needed anymore when this type of AI software is the norm, and it's soon, it's coming. And that's why this story coming from The Verge isn't exactly very surprising, especially with all the layoffs and everything that's been going on, but it's also the future outlook at the video game industry and the need for unionization to protect employees. So World of Warcraft developers, Blizzard forms the largest and most inclusive union. Over 500 employees have organized across multiple departments, creating the wall-to-wall union of its kind at the studio, something that is probably, again, going to become the norm in the video game industry. These efforts have been going on for a while now, and it's only going to continue, especially with the announcements like this with AI. And it's not even just Blizzard. Bethesda is also going through the same thing. Bethesda Game Studios is now unionized across the board, recognized by Microsoft. So I do think what is becoming clear is that the video game industry is changing. I do think the amount of people being needed to work on games may be lessened because of the fact of, well, AI usage. And what that means is that video game developers, companies, they're going out of their way now to protect their employees. That's why unionization efforts are going to be coming a lot more common in the industry in the years to come. At least that's what I think. Now, for a while, we saw a lot of articles, individuals would go on Twitter and such, and they would argue that review bombing efforts were meaningless, they never meant anything, they would never accomplish anything. I've always known that as a bold-faced lie, and Take-Two Interactive, the bosses of Rockstar Games, 2K Games, recently kind of reaffirmed that perspective. This article coming from GameRant, GTA 6 publisher comments on the impact of review bombing on games, and they specifically mentioned that at first this was spotted by GameFile's Stephen Totillo. Take-Two's 2024 SEC filing includes a lengthy passage highlighting the importance of obtaining and maintaining high game ratings on third-party platforms, not least because good scores improve product discoverability across such storefronts. And this is the specific filing. It says, furthermore, obtaining and maintaining high ratings of our games on the third-party platforms on which we operate are important as they help drive players to find our games. If the ratings of any of our games decline, or if we receive significant negative reviews that result in a decrease in our ratings, our games could be more difficult for players to find or recommend. In addition, we may be subject to negative review campaigns or defamation campaigns, I love that, calling this defamation campaigns, intended to harm our ratings. Any such decline may lead to a loss of players and revenues, additional advertising and marketing cost, and reputation harm. And what's notable about this is the timing, because Rockstar Games has notably had some pretty big review bombing efforts. We had the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition a couple of years back. Last year, it was this specific port of Red Dead Redemption costing $50 with little improvements. Eventually, there was some stuff that came along, but a lot of people were upset, and they voiced their displeasure by going to Metacritic and going to the PlayStation 4 version and negatively reviewing it. And those negative scores definitely impact the image of the game. And this is something that, well, Take-Two Interactive is pretty much admitting, and that's why some people do have a little bit of a conspiracy. I don't even think you can call it that, but the reason why Grand Theft Auto 6 and Rockstar Games don't release day one on PC is to avoid something like this. And the fact that Take-Two is acknowledging it as a problem for them is rather notable. But in some other GTA-related news, we also had a former Rockstar developer talking about GTA 6 and how it may disappoint people. Aube Vermage is a legend in the Grand Theft Auto world. He was a senior developer at the company for a very, very long time, only recently leaving. Now the developer has sat down for an hour-long interview with San and Play, during which he spoke at length about Grand Theft Auto 6, but his predictions aren't what some fans are looking for. for. And he said, I don't think it's going to be wildly different from GTA 5. I think many people might be a little disappointed on the first day, but it's still going to be the best game out there. And I think that perspective is key, because I think the hype, the anticipation surrounding Grand Theft Auto 6 is unprecedented. It is the most highly anticipated game of all time. And with that said, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed with maybe the restrictions, maybe the changes to the formula, especially if it holds more of the Red Dead Redemption gameplay mechanics that haven't really been introduced to the GTA universe yet. So I do think there are certain aspects that people may not fall in love with. And especially after Red Dead Redemption 2, there still has been a decent amount of people that felt disappointment with that game. So I do think some people have been waiting about over a decade for GTA 6. There are going to be people that just don't feel like it was enough. And I can understand the sentiment, I can understand this opinion. I don't think this necessarily is a reflection on the overall quality. I do think GTA 6 is going to be a fantastic experience. Everything I've heard definitely sounds like it could and should be that, but I also realize that it might not fit the image that some have created in their own heads. But hey, right now we're waiting for the second trailer for GTA 6. Hopefully we'll see some actual gameplay sooner rather than later. We have those in-development videos from years back, but I think a lot of us want to see something released from Rockstar, and hopefully that is coming sooner rather than later. PlayStation's efforts into the live service sphere has been a mess. This was towards the end of December, in which the Last of Us multiplayer game was canceled. Naughty Dog just admitted that it wasn't up to par, and they were moving on from that, probably working on The Last of Us Part 3 and supposedly a new IP at the moment. But this was a major cancellation that caught a lot of people's eyes, maybe thinking that Sony really cared about quality, and there was also just a lot of question marks about why it was canceled, because of the fact that, again, this was something that was in development for years. But Concord was another live service project that was teased a while ago. We got our first real presentation of it about a month or two ago at PlayStation's State of Play, and the impression surrounding it, well, were not positive. The Astrobot trailer got 99% likes on YouTube, Concord got about 18%, and you had people calling it an Overwatch clone or an Overwatch ripoff. And the big thing is, with the character cast, there just isn't a distinct identity or personality to this game. Kind of reminds me of Bleeding Edge from years back, in which that didn't survive very long either. Now, though, there was a recent beta for Concord, and it went as badly as you thought it would. And also, this is a paid experience. That's the big thing, especially in these hero shooters and such. A lot of them start off free to play. This is $40 you have to cough up at launch. And as this Game World Observer article says, players have near zero interest in Concord, as Sony seems to be driving itself into live service trap. Concord, an upcoming hero shooter from Sony's Firewalk Studios, doesn't look promising. That's an opinion that a lot of people have right now. And the beta, what did the numbers say? On July 12th, Firewalk Studios launched a closed beta for people who purchased or pre-purchased Concord on PlayStation and PC, as well as PS Plus subscribers. From the 18th to July 21st, the studio also ran an open beta for all players. Despite being free to access for everyone, it only peaked at 2,300 concurrent players on Steam at launch, and steadily declined over the weekend to just about a couple of hundred. That is horrendous for a game that's supposed to be launching towards the end of August. And it also does continue on, just to mention the fact that opinions and stuff about this trailer, about this game, have not gotten better. In addition, it's worth checking out Concord's stats on YouTube. Its beta trailer has generated over 100,000 views since July 11th, but received over 13,000 dislikes with only 1.8 thousand upvotes. And the opinion a lot of people have about Concord is that it just wasn't needed. There just wasn't a want for another hero shooter game like Overwatch. And yeah, Concord failed to crack Steam's 750 most wishlist game after its disappointing beta. There just is no interest at all in this game. And it comes at a horrible time because Marvel's Rivals, another competitor, is blowing up right now. It already has 22 times Concord's players, and if you actually check Steam charts right now, 31,000 players. That is bad news for Concord. Again, a game that's supposed to be coming out towards the end of August. And even Overwatch has kind of gotten their act together. There's some interest in a new Space Girl healer that's going to be coming to the game. There's been some positive impressions for that. And look, Concord is doubling down. They announced post-launch plans. There's not going to be a battle pass. They want a constant and rewarding porting and robust experience. All of that sounds great, but there just is not an audience for this game, and that is a major problem for Sony, who so far has had a disastrous time with live service experiences. They've had some success, but it's a mess. It is a mess right now, and Concord definitely right now appears to be headed for disaster, which is why some people are calling for PlayStation to make the smart decision to delay the game to sometime early on next year, make it free to play, and then have some sort of cosmetic monetization. That might be the only way that this game has any sort of life, but that doesn't make up for the other issues people have with the game, which is the terrible character models, some of the movement issues, and other various issues that have emerged out of this beta, which just adds to a negative perception that people have surrounding Concord. Anyway, a lot of different gaming news, a lot of things picking up. We got Gamescom in a couple weeks. I'll be covering all of the gaming news that comes from that and everything else going on in the video game industry, including some of the highly anticipated games on the way. So make sure you are subscribed for that. But if you did enjoy the video, leave a like, leave a comment down below for your thoughts on the news we talked about today. And as always, I'll see you later.